What's up, everybody? Welcome to Hollywood Unveiled, where we pull back the curtain on the Hollywood entertainment industry and get to know the people and stories behind the magic. I'm Jake.
I'm Logan.
And Logan, would you prefer yellow spandex?
Having just seen Deadpool and Wolverine, yes.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
It plays well. I'll say that. If it wasn't obvious, we're going to be talking about X-Men near 2000. A movie that, like, I think for a lot of mainstream audiences was the first thing that had them go, okay, these comic book movies can be something else. I know Blade came out before this, but like no one really knew it was a comic book movie. So it was just a good, fun movie.
No. If you knew, then you were one of the cool kids that knew, right? I didn't know, so
no, I didn't either. But yeah, no, this is a fantastic movie. It's very silly in points, but it's also like you can go back and watch it and kind of see why a lot of it works.
So let's get into it, Logan. Yeah. Tell me all about it.
Well, we'll start with the cast. Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Halle Berry as Storm, Femke Janssen as Jean Grey, James Marsden as Scott Summers, Anna Paquin as Rogue, Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, Ray Park as Toad, and Tyler Mane as Sabretooth. Big old cast in this one.
Loaded.
But they all really, really work. And I think that's what makes it a really fun movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I had a lot of fun with this. I remember being in the theater, seeing it and just thinking like, oh, this is really happening. We're really getting a movie like this. It's so cool.
Oh, yeah. And especially like being a kid named Logan, like, you know, I grew up with the X-Men show, you know, the cartoon. And I was already a fan. I was like, X-Men, heck yeah, let's do it. Can't wait to see. And I think I left the theater vibrating with excitement. I was like, this movie rocks.
Oh, yeah. And at the time, too, everybody was going for the realism, the grittiness. Like you have to ground it in a real world, and everything coming off the Matrix, everything had to be black leather.
Yes.
So, and you know what, at the time, maybe that's what we needed. Maybe we needed that sort of stepping stone to get into the yellow spandex, you know, but like looking back now, it kind of, I hear a lot of people talking about, man, they really were like condescending to the audience because they thought we couldn't handle it or something.
Oh, yeah. I remember that being a wild thing in X-Men 3 when Beast shows up in a different era of X-Men suit and it looks closer to the comics. Like
but
it's
still
not
black leather.
There. Yeah, but it also like, you know, you see, the different generations. All right, that's more like the comic. And it just took so long to get something even close to the comic accuracy.
Oh, yeah.
But it also took a long time for this movie to get made. So it came out in 2000, but the first draft for this thing was written in about 1984.
Wow.
Trying for a long time to get it going. And then in like 1989 and 1990, Stan Lee and Chris Claremont were in talks with a studio called Carelco Pictures to produce, and I kid you not, with James Cameron as producer and Catherine Bigelow directing.
I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, like at the time she had done Near Dark. So it's like, okay, she's worked with like young kids, different from society. All right, this could work really well.
And if I'm not mistaken, James Cameron was at around that time trying to make a Spider-Man movie, right?
So from what I was reading, it was his conversations with Stan Lee on this that kind of diverted his interest. And so like that was why he kind of dropped out of this was, I've got this idea for a Spider-Man thing, and he was going to do that.
And it was going to be Leonardo DiCaprio on that, a bit side-tied jet.
And if I remember correctly, Schwarzenegger as Doc Ock, which would have been very weird.
Well, I mean, Otto Octavia is very German.
Hey,
you know, so I mean, it's the biggest Otto Octavius I've ever seen, but okay.
Not wrong. Now, this draft that was put together in the 80s, the only casting things they talked about for that was Bob Hoskins as Wolverine and Angela Bassett as Storm.
Now, there's the variants I would have loved to seen in Deadpool and Wolverine right there.
Like Bassett for a very long time has been someone I'd be like, she'd be a fantastic Storm.
And she truly is the queen for Storm. I mean, I love Halle Berry. I love Halle Berry.
She's great.
She did great. But Angela Bassett, come on.
I would love to at least see the variant. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
So the movie kind of held in the stasis there until, hilariously, Avi Arad was producing the 90s X-Men cartoon and really impressed 20th Century Fox. So he then paired with Lauren Schuler Donner, and they bought the rights in about 1994. And then they brought in Andrew Kevin Walker. He's written a lot of David Fincher stuff, like Seven, and then his newest thing, The Killer. And his draft included like Iceman, Beast, Juggernaut, Blob, and the Sentinels, in addition to all the mutant characters who we kind of have in this first movie. It also tweaked Magneto's backstory so that he was the cause of the Chernobyl disaster. Which is like, all right, like that's a choice. Let's see how it plays out for him, Cotton.
Apparently, he was also the cause of the JFK assassination, or trying to prevent it.
That was a thing in Days of Future Past, wasn't it?
Yep.
So in about 1995, the script is changed again by Lito Kalogridis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but they wrote Alexander and Shutter Island, and the story now focused on Magneto kind of turning Manhattan into a mutant homeland. Wiping out the humans there and making it almost, his Genosha.
Yeah, that's say the cinematic Genosha. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also that script also had a big romance arc between Wolverine and Storm.
Okay. It happened in the comics, I think.
Yeah,
right? So
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Then this guy named Michael Chabon, who wrote Wonder Boys and I think did a draft on Spider-Man 2. He wrote like a 6-page treatment of like, hey, this is my idea for it. And it focused so much on the X-Men themselves that he said in his draft, in the full draft, the villains wouldn't have even been introduced until the second movie in the series.
Okay.
It was just a character drama with the X-Men.
What I think is really interesting, there are movies where they take too much to set up like either the first movie or the first season of a show, even that you don't even get into what the fans love about the project, and they're like, oh well, that'll be in the sequel or season 2, and then it doesn't come.
And it never happens. Yeah,
I mean, presently, I think I remember watching the Halo series, and the first season of it, I was like, where's the Halo? Where's the? Are we going to get to the Halo? Are we going to get? No, we're not going to get to Halo. Okay. Oh, I guess we're getting to that later. But I didn't catch season 2 to find out. So
yeah, but it's ending at season 2. So
I know, right?
Now on this, they had a couple possible directors. One that I think is interesting, considering he comes back around later in the series. Brett Ratner. They also offered it to Robert Rodriguez, who I would have loved to see do this, and Paul W.S. Anderson. They kind of loved what he did with Mortal Kombat, and they're like, okay, he knows how to do adaptations of weird, kooky characters. Why not?
Yeah. And as much as I love Mortal Kombat, yeah,
he's not great.
No.
I've seen all of his Resident Evil movies, and good adaptations they are not. But at this point, director Bryan Singer, they were interested, but he was hesitant to take it on because he was like, audiences won't take a comic book movie seriously. But then the producer, Tom DeSanto, he kind of presented the X-Men as like, well, yeah, it is superheroes and it's comic books, but here's this, like, there's always this big, like, recurring theme of prejudice against the other. And that resonated with Singer. So, he kind of came on board. Then in 1996, one of my favorite writers, Ed Solomon, who wrote Bill and Ted and Men in Black. 2 great ones. So he wrote a new draft. And he has this quote that I love here. He says, I got fired initially because I chose to write a superhero movie where their physical powers were external manifestations of their inner issues, not that they were written as real human beings. I'm still to this day really proud that I was the first person to do that. Yeah.
Was he the first person to do this?
I think in the various drafts of like doing a comic book thing. Like he was writing them as real people with issues. They kind of projected themselves as their powers instead of it. Well, I'm cursed with this power, so it's a bit like, so kind of reversing a little bit. But when 1997 hit, a little movie called Batman and Robin came out. Oh, studios got real nervous about adapting comic books.
Yeah, well,
at least until Blade came out.
Yeah,
so Blade, kind of showed the studios like, hey, you can take comic book things seriously
as long as they're dressed in black leather.
It would seem that is the connecting factor. Yeah. And you have one cast member wear sunglasses for 90% of the movie.
Yeah. That's the big takeaway, really.
Yeah. So at this point, the budget was cut to try to make it as cheap as possible. And the final budget for the movie was about $75 million, which, like, for a superhero movie, pretty low. Like, even by today's standards, that's really low for a big tentpole superhero movie.
Yeah.
But to save the budget, they cut a lot of characters. They cut Beast, Nightcrawler, Pyro, and the Danger Room. A lot of big makeups, and it's like, all right, and the scene that will require a lot of maybe digital elements, yeah, let's not do that. At this point, Chris McQuarrie and Joss Whedon both did various drafts. And there's at least a couple instances of Whedon's kind of one-liners in the final cut of the movie. The one that I know which one. Yeah, when Wolverine walks out after they first meet Mystique, and he's like, whoa, it's me. Cyclops is like, prove it. And he goes, you're a dick. And Cyclops just goes, okay. Like, that's very Whedon.
And Logan, do you know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those lines where it's like, that feels like a very Whedon-y pun.
But there was no pun there. Where's the pun?
No. Well, I think
what happens to a toad besides what happens to everybody else?
Well, and that's the thing. I think she needed to be more surprised by that.
Yeah.
Do you know what happens to a toad that's struck by lightning? Zap. Same thing that happens to everything else. Like,
now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, like you're right. She should have come off surprised. Did she say it after he got zapped or before he got zapped? Because I think she said it before.
She did. She looks up. She sees the lightning. So it's supposed to be a badass line. And it's like, oh no. The way it works is it's got to come after he gets zapped.
But yeah, she said it before.
Yeah.
So, in that case, it would have worked if she said it afterwards.
Hey.
If you had to keep the line in, I'm saying just cut the line.
I get it. Now, the one thing that I've seen a lot of, and this actually is something that kind of is cool that comes back later. So Singer didn't want the comic books on the set because he wanted to kind of stress this idea that, well, this is meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah. I mean, why would you make a comic book movie?
Yeah. So the film's associate producer, a little guy named Kevin Feige, would actually
really a nobody really at the time.
Yeah,
who's this guy?
That guy with his star on the Walk of Fame? So he would actually sneak comics to Jackman so that he could get a better sense of the character. And it paid off in a really good way because the draft that they were working on, Jackman improvised using the word bub. There's a whole big thing in the comics with Wolverine. He calls everybody. But like, it wasn't in the draft, and Jackman had been reading all the comics. And he's like, that's got to go in. Yeah. Because it's a big thing with the character, and I want to make sure. Yeah.
And it also paid off, like how many billions of dollars later for Kevin Feige. So
exactly. Now there were a lot of casting alternatives for this thing. A couple of them were big asks that they were never going to get. Like for Storm, Janet Jackson.
Interesting.
Yeah. Jean Grey, they offered it to Charlize Theron, which like I could see that. This is another one that I think I can see where they were going with it. Mystique, they wanted Jerry Ryan.
Yeah, I could see that for the time, especially. Yeah.
Especially coming out of Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of sense for her. Rogue, the only other big name I saw other than Anna Paquin was Rachel Lee Cook. Which, like,
interesting.
I could totally see how that would be, the choice for it. The studio wanted Jim Caviezel, and he was actually originally cast as Cyclops, but dropped out. So they very smartly approached Patrick Stewart first for Xavier. He's like the person that they wanted to get. But apparently Michael Jackson expressed interest in playing Xavier.
I'd heard this,
would have been a very different movie. For Magneto, the two big names that I've seen, Terrence Stamp. It's like, all right, getting General Zod as Magneto. That makes sense. And Christopher Lee.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
interesting. Yeah.
They go with Ian McKellen, who will then be opposite Christopher Lee in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the big one, of course, Wolverine. There's a lot of stuff with this. We're not going to go into the full detail of it because it's huge. But a lot of the original casting they had in mind for him. Russell Crowe, Viggo Mortensen, Aaron Eckhart, Edward Norton, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah, but eventually, Dougray Scott was cast in the role. And honestly, like, seeing his other performances, I can see why they had him. But he had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts with Mission Impossible 2.
Yep.
Couldn't be there with filming.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, the studio is kind of panicking. The two names that they are coming back to potentially for Wolverine are Keanu Reeves and Gary Sinise. Two wildly different actors.
I can oddly see both of them doing a version that I wouldn't necessarily hate.
Well, this is weird because, like, in the year 2000, I don't know how Keanu would have done with Wolverine.
Right. He's coming right off of, whoa, and more guns, you know.
Exactly.
And,
which is just a very different character. So, like,
today, that would be kind of cool.
100%. I could totally see. And Gary Sinise, you know, you look at Lieutenant Dan, you're like,
I can see him chomping on a cigar, you know,
and the tortured, you can see all that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But then Hugh Jackman, they saw his audition, which I remember I've seen. It was on the DVD for the movie.
Yeah.
And it's the scene in the car with Rogue, like where she's asking him the questions about the claws and ends with him like flying through the windshield. And they loved him. And he was brought in 3 weeks into filming. So like he was already super late to the party. Like it was nowhere near as like jacked and ripped as his Wolverine has now become. Oh yeah,
I remember him saying that I didn't even have time to get in shape, and I'm like, well, if that's you out of shape, sir, I mean, okay, I guess.
I also love throughout the movie his mutton chops get more and more real.
Yeah, because he didn't have them at the start.
Yeah, so at the beginning they're like full fakes, and then like the more they grew, they just like use.
And the whole hair thing too, I think, was like kind of a work in progress throughout the movie.
Yeah. So, but we can all agree he nails it. He knocks it out of the park.
Hey, true believers. If you're enjoying some of the behind the scenes of some of your favorite movies out there, be sure to subscribe to the show. And if there's a movie you want us to dive into, be sure to let us know in the comments below.
Oh, yeah. Anything. We're down for whatever you want.
We are. Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We really are. Well, with that, let's dive back into X-Men. This is where the claws come out of my hands.
Yeah, I don't have the budget for claws.
Yeah, I mean, I do the VFX. I could probably, no, I'm too lazy.
And the other big thing for this movie that certainly stood out at the time of filming was Mystique. Because like in the comics, you know, she always kind of, you know, to not beat around the bush, she wears clothes.
Yeah, she definitely stands out that way.
Yeah, and in this, their interpretation, which I think kind of works, is she's almost like a lizard, but is super proud in her own mutant skin, especially since she can shapeshift on clothes. It visually makes sense.
I remember them talking about it like, some of the effects in general on X-Men 1. And when they talked about things like Wolverine healing, right? You know, they talked really about the detail of how does the wound close? Does the blood stay on the body afterwards? It naturally would, because they were trying to ground everything in reality. So they would say that the blood would stay behind because it would naturally still be there after his healing. So similarly with Mystique, you know, I don't imagine she could shapeshift, but she couldn't shapeshift clothes that she's wearing. So that makes sense that they would do that.
If you see her character put on a jacket and she shapeshifts, that
she's still wearing a jacket.
Is still there.
Yeah. But if whatever she morphed into is part of her body that's shifting too, then that makes sense.
And from a visual effects standpoint, it gave them a point of like, okay, those scales are kind of what initiates the change.
Yeah, that was a pretty neat,
cool.
That was a revolutionary effect too. I loved it. Yeah.
So that makeup took 110 individual silicone pieces that were kind of self-adhesive in the middle of the piece, and the outside edge just had to be secured down. And it took about 6 hours.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. And it also didn't help that they changed how her skin was going to be painted like a couple days before filming.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was originally supposed to be like dyed a certain thing, and then like they decided they wanted it more opaque. So it meant that they had like fully paint her instead of just doing some like coloring. So it became a whole thing. Also, the contact lenses that she's wearing. This is the only movie where Romaine wears the contact lenses because she couldn't see out of them. And they were so invasive, I guess, that she could only wear them for a half hour.
It's the kind that wrap around your eyeball, really, right?
Yeah, it was the full sclera, the full thing.
Yeah.
The one funny story I did find, though, with her and her whole makeup is that to celebrate on the last day of filming, she brought a bottle of tequila, which she gave to the casting crew during a break. but it was on the day they were filming the Wolverine Mystique fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up throwing up blue-colored vomit all over Hugh Jackman.
Why was it blue? What was she?
Just from the various chemicals like in her mouth with the blue makeup and all of that.
Well, so they dyed the inside of her mouth too.
Well, like I believe it's like you could the few times you can see her tongue. I think there's some of that and some of that or it could just be like all the lips as she's taking swigs of the whatever.
But, sure, yeah.
Blue. Now, we were talking about the costumes. The one note I found was the costumes were changed to the black leather because the producers thought the bright colors wouldn't work. Yes. Wrong. Moving on.
Well, we learned over time, again, I was saying, like, at the time, like, I think all of us had the mindset, like, well, yeah, that makes sense. You have to translate it to real life. You can't just put them in yellow spandex and everything. Yeah. But as we've seen, I mean, like, Raimi went straight into it with Spider-Man.
Well, and I think that was kind of the thing. This is the movie that showed that thematically you could take comic book movies seriously. Mm-hmm. And Raimi's Spider-Man was the one that showed, hey, you can make this look like a comic book.
You can just rip it right out of the page just fine if you do it right.
Oh, yeah. And we will definitely be talking about that in a later episode because it also changed the industry. Now, interestingly, this is the only X-Men movie to have an original story. Mm-hmm. Every other one of the movies, at the very least, the like main X-Men movies are like based on an adaptation of at least one comic book story. And it's like, you can kind of see it. It's like, all right, like, how do you do an origin story for the X-Men that isn't like the original in the comics, where it's like, these are the 5 original X-Men, and then they get lost on a mission, and we got to recruit, and so you're gonna have to write something new for that anyway. So I get it. So McKellen was offered Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, like right when they were kind of in early development for this movie, and they changed the entire schedule so that he could finish filming early and get out to film Fellowship, because like he was a huge fan of it. Like the production, like they were like, yeah, like you'd be amazing for Gandalf. We don't want to take that opportunity away from you. So they shot a lot of his stuff early so he could get off to kind of go to the Shire. I think this is hilarious, especially considering how big it is for the characters. Neither Patrick Stewart or Ian McKellen knew how to play chess when they were actually cast in this movie.
I love that fact.
Which is like, yeah, that tracks.
And they brought in a chess expert just for that. And like, I don't think you needed an expert. I'm sure a grip on set knows how to play chess and can tell them.
As long as you say pieces go here, do these moves. Cool, great.
Yeah, I'm just picturing these 2 men of their senior ages playing this game of chess, looking so serious, like they know what they're doing, and going, do you know what we're doing? Do you know what to do? Okay. No.
Can I move the horse? No. The nipple thing. Oh, okay. All right, great.
The nipple thing, yes.
That feels like a Patrick Stewart-ism that,
Yeah.
So in the comics, everyone knows like Wolverine, super short, 5'3". Mm-hmm. That is partly why Tyler Mane was cast as Sabretooth.
Oh, yeah.
Massive.
Yeah.
But it also meant that in scenes with Cyclops and Wolverine, Marsden had to wear lifts because he's 6 foot and Jackman's like 6'1" or something.
Actually, Marsden is closer to 5'10".
Right.
So when I see what's funny is when you see them, they're at eye level in the movie, and whatever it is proportionately, when you look at Marsden, if you really look at him, you're like, you are not that tall. Like you
legs go on a little longer than they should.
A little bit.
But the movie did amazing at the box office. It earned $236.3 million, which on a $75 million budget, that's damn good.
That's profit.
Yeah. You know what else is going to be damn good? Your results in Game Time, you son of a bitch. That's right. We've arrived at everybody's favorite game show in a podcast. I don't know. But we've got.
Well, let's just skip all that and get to me. No, you know what? I always self-deprecate. I'm going to destroy this thing.
And you've been doing great. Like, you keep deprecating, but like you're doing good on these Game Times.
You are objectively being generous, but thank you. I will take it.
All right. Question number 1. How many X-Men movies have been in this entire series?
I'm going to say 11.
Oh, Jake, I'm sorry. You are very, very close. The correct answer
Is it 10?
Is 14.
Okay, never mind.
So we'll run them down. The three
X1, 2, and 3.
Yes,
We've
X1,
got
2, and 3.
the new generation of.
Let's go. You've got Origins Wolverine, The Wolverine, Logan, X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, Deadpool 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Okay.
And the New Mutants.
Oh, I haven't even seen that one.
It's not bad.
No, I heard it's actually quite good. But it's
it's when it's allowed to have fun. Yeah, it's not bad.
Sure. Yeah.
It bears a lot of weight of having to be the last like mainstream X-Men movie.
Hold on. Legion.
I said, how many movies?
I know you said movies. I'm just throwing that in there.
Rips. I love that show.
That show to me, that is X-Men produced by Blumhouse.
That's why I'm really excited because that creator is doing a TV show for Alien. Oh, yeah. I cannot wait to see that show. We'll talk about it more off mic, but I'm really excited for it.
All right.
So, unfortunately, you did not get that first one, but you got 5 more.
All right.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Stanley appears in this, with his traditional cameo. Why is his cameo in this movie special? Was it his first? Like in the major movies that came out? That is correct. It was his first cameo in a theatrically released Marvel. Okay.
All right. I got something there.
Yes. See, there you go. You're doing great. All right. Question number 3. Who has appeared in more films in the X-Men series? Hugh Jackman or Patrick Stewart?
Hugh Jackman.
Correct.
They're just more Wolverine movies than anything.
But hilariously, Stewart shows up in all 3 of the Wolverine movies. So it's like, so he's in.
He doesn't even show up in all of the X-Men movies, though.
This is true.
And Wolverine shows up in most of the X-Men movies. Well,
for a bonus point.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of the X-Men movies has Hugh Jackman been in? I'm going to clarify. I am not counting the People magazine cover stapled to Deadpool's face.
Because that's Hugh Jackman. Yeah, well, I guess Hugh Jackman showing up, but 9.
He shows up in 11 of them. Though the only 3 that he does not appear in, like I said, the first Deadpool, New Mutants.
Oh, we're counting Deadpool again. That's right.
Yes, and they reuse the footage.
Well, they reuse that footage. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're counting all those too.
Here in Mutants, Deadpool 1, and Dark Phoenix.
Okay.
So,
he's not in those. And my brain already completely forgot about New Mutants. Anyway,
it happens. Now, I mean, you're at 2 of 3, so you're not doing bad at all right now. And you got 3
said 5. Oh yeah, 3. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so next question. Hugh Jackman was mostly known for a long run in a particular musical in Australia.
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plains.
That is correct.
All right, because I'm a bit of a song and dance man myself, so at least I got that going.
All right. Next question. A very important person involved with the future of Marvel has a cameo in this movie as a Weapon X tech who pulls Wolverine's claws out of the oven in the flashback sequences to show the Weapon X project. Who is that cameo?
I have 2 guesses.
I need 1.
The initial reaction I want to say is, it must be Kevin Feige, but I don't know that it is, because I think that there's another producer, Tom DeSantis, that has cameos in it too, but I'll just say Kevin Feige.
Don't sound so bummed. You're correct.
All right, I'll take it.
It is Kevin Feige.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, you sound super bummed, but it's you're doing good, man.
I guess I'm right. Shit.
All right. Here we are, the last question.
All right.
For this, I need 3 answers.
No, you son of a bitch.
It'll make total sense.
Let's do it. All
right, so final question. This film was the 9th highest grossing film of the year 2000.
All right.
Name 3 of the movies that beat it that year at the box office.
Yeah.
Any Does not matter the order. Just any of the 8 movies that preceded in the lineup.
Year 2000. Okay.
Year 2000.
Okay, we already established Matrix came out first. That's why the black leather. So it didn't come out that year.
So yeah, I will confirm Matrix, not in the list.
Not on the list. Yeah. Mission Impossible 2.
Correct. That was
there you go.
That was the number 1 highest grossing film of the year 2000.
Okay.
All right, so now we just 2 more.
I don't have it. Tap.
Okay. All right.
I'm just not gonna. I don't want to just prolong the pain. Let's go.
Then throw out 2 other movie titles.
What, Santa Claus come out that year?
It was not.
Okay.
All right, one more guess.
There's a guess. Yeah. I don't have it. I don't have it, sir.
All right. So in order of highest grossing 2, eventually X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Starting at number 1, Mission Impossible 2.
Hey, I got that.
Yeah. Actually, here, let me adjust your score. Gladiator.
Oh yeah. There you go. Russell Crowe couldn't do it. Yeah, you got Gladiator.
Castaway.
Castaway, right?
What Women Want.
Yeah.
Dinosaur. How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey.
Oh, there. Yeah.
Meet the Parents.
Okay.
And The Perfect Storm.
Okay. Yep.
And then X-Men right there after Perfect Storm.
Yeah, a lot of favorites there, but I wouldn't have guessed 2000.
Yeah, none of them scream the year 2000. But hey, you got 4 out of 6. That's good.
Not bad. That's more than half.
That's more than half. That means you passed.
Yeah.
So there you go. See, don't shit talk yourself next time.
That's 2/3. I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, Logan. Well, now that I've completed the assignment to an extent, this has been an awesome ride. And as we have learned, yes, we do in fact prefer yellow spandex.
Yeah. It's one of those where it's almost, I don't know if quaint is the right word. It's made in the best way for a movie to build a massive franchise thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is not interested in building a massive franchise thing. It is just trying to tell a good story, characters that you care about, and then, hey, we have more of these characters if you want to do more with them.
And clearly we did want to see more with these characters. So
yeah, not all of them were big hits, but all of them are varying degrees of X-Men.
Oh yeah.
And I can't really knock the series as a whole.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I love the crap out of it. But Logan, tell the people where they can find you.
I'm findable. You can find me on Twitter at FilmGuy89, Instagram and Letterboxd at FilmGuy1989. And I still do the table readings on YouTube. In fact, we've done at least, I think, a couple of the early drafts of X-Men before this, which were interesting, to say the very least.
Which I will link in the description below.
Yeah. How about you? Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me and my company at VFX2Go on all the socials and our website, www.vfx2go.com, where you can also check out our brand new blog where we feature news, tips, tutorials, and interviews in the VFX industry. So check that out. It's a lot of fun.
And also check out our website,
HollywoodUnveiled.com, where you can find the whole archive of our show and see the latest that's going on. Well, Logan, one of these days we'll figure out how to end this show, but until then, I've been Jake.
I've been Logan.
Oh, Logan, would you prefer black leather?
No.
No, me neither.
Not in personal or private life.
Yeah.